right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is 30 Minutes With. This is Downtown Spokane's recurring webinar series where we bring to you local industry experts and community leaders to talk about some of the more pressing topics of the day. My name is Kevin Campbell. I am the Business Relations Coordinator for the Downtown Spokane Partnership and Business Improvement District. And today, I have the pleasure of introducing our featured presenter, Cupid Alexander. Cupid is the Division Director of Neighborhoods, Housing, and Human Services for the City of Spokane. And today he's going to be talking with us about the future of Spokane, including like cultivating things like cultural activations. And in a moment, he can dive into what that means and a lot of other stuff. We're looking forward to hearing from him. So if you do have any questions during the kind of prepared portion of this presentation, please feel free to just put them into the chat box and we can see them there and address them. And then we'll also have a lot of time to address any questions and comments you may have for Cupid at the end when we can open it up to a Q&A. So I'll also just note that we do record these sessions and we put them online later, as well as all of the sessions that we've done in the past. So you'll have access to this content if you'd like to reference it or share it with anyone else. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass things over to you, Cupid. Thanks for being with us. We are excited to have you. And if you're ready, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, thanks. And I have a slide for everyone, a slideshow. So I'll try and go through this as quickly as possible. I know we only have 30 minutes and I put a few, I put actually a lot of slides. So maybe you can throw the slideshow up. I don't know if it's up yet. In the meantime, if you have any questions, this was meant to, be iterative. It's not meant for me to talk at anyone. It's meant to talk with you all. So I'll go ahead and get started. As you can see, my name is Cupid Alexander, and I am the current Director of Neighborhoods, Housing, and Human Services for the City of Spokane. Prior to my work here, I was the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Mayor of Portland, and the work involved economic development, workforce development, transportation infrastructure, housing, community and constituent engagement, and so on and so forth. But I want to thank you all for inviting me to chat with you, and hopefully this conversation will be open-ended. Like I said before, I don't want to just talk at you, but I want to talk with you. So that means feel free to pose questions and ask deeper questions as we go through my brief slideshow. Next slide. So I don't know if anyone saw this picture. Does anyone know where this picture is from? And that's open. If you do, unmic yourself, tell me. If I don't hear it in like 10 seconds, then I'm gonna say it. Or everyone's just trying to play coy. I get it. I get it. Well, this picture is from Portland in the middle of the major protests and in reaction to actions happening throughout our country, specifically with George Floyd, which leads me to why I imagine so many people are willing to have certain conversation, which to my understanding is what does a society that understands the past and its influence is coming to terms with past injustices that have created systemic inequalities, reconcile these actions, and improve our communities for everyone. But I mean, what do you all think? I mean, I could be wrong. And additionally, I think the purpose of this conversation that we're having today is to think creatively on ways to bring this community together in shared spaces, which is why I want to get to that point. So you can go to the next slide. So I'm going to say something a little bit controversial. As you can see, this will not be a conversation about diversity, equity, inclusion. Look, I know it's Black History Month. I know that it seems like the right time to have this conversation. I know some of you came ready to either feel good or feel bad about this convo. I can see you already saying like, what? But I also fundamentally believe that DEI is a part of a larger justice conversation and is a means and not an end. It is not the primary deliverable and purpose of our conversation. It's not as if we can say, hey, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna talk about DEI and that's going to solve everything. DEI is a framework. It helps to unpack and to unlock and understand actions that systemically weaponize bias. It's admirable, but that's not what I'm here to do. Next slide, please. Also, as the slide says, something a little bit more controversial again, I'm not here to get you to like anyone, including me, even though I'm extra cool. I think you all should like me. I'm not here to lead conversations and breakout sessions about why you should or should not like anyone. That's too hard to do. And I actually don't think you have to like everyone. I think our work is to make sure that our biases, and we all have them, aren't weaponized to eliminate any opportunities for anyone in work or economic or shared spaces, period. I'm not here to get you to a place of pacification or acceptance or anything like that. What I am here to do is so we can converse about ways we can make Spokane, and most acutely its downtown area, a space where unique experiences can exist and in a place where people want to come, a place that creates an environment where success can exist, especially in alignment with a globalized society. As you know, people can work from anywhere, where we can live and work and play, and how we can all benefit. Next slide, please. So as I was thinking about this work, I was wondering what are some of the impediments to people coming downtown or to many other shared spaces. And much of this list is based on a perception and sometimes the observations others have. And this is not just Spokane's downtown, it's many urban and suburban cores recently. I mean, is this correct? Some of you may be asking, what does this have to do with anything? Many of the concerns listed have a sense of otherness, that someone else will have to deal with these issues, perhaps the city, perhaps businesses, perhaps the federal government. But like I put on this list, perhaps sometimes the issue is us, like we're the actual issue, but maybe we're not. Others feel like the space is not for them, and that's the space I want us to live in, at least for the time being. So pre-COVID, you know, you all I'm sure had multiple conversations about trash and traffic and danger, people having nothing that they like, and homeless and other people, and you. And after COVID, a lot of it has been what? Physical proximity, cleanliness, or the lack of cleanliness, safety, garbage and graffiti, drifters, vagrants, homeless, the shutdown in and of itself, and sometimes the issue is still you, still us, because you're still downtown. Next slide, please. So, I'm not asking you to change any of your beliefs. I'm actually specifically asking you to believe something different about downtown, about what it could be, what it could look like, what it could feel like. Because if you're like me, you know, sometimes you can't be what you can't see. And sometimes other people need you to see things for them. You have to think differently. And that's my ask of this conversation. Not that you don't believe in downtown and don't believe in business, but you believe something different. So, next slide. What does look different and see differently look like? Well, it looks like a bit of the same in some ways. For this conversation, a unique opportunity would be cultural activations. Think about it. Many of us celebrate St. Patrick's Day. I'm not Irish, but I know I'm drinking green beer and drinking all the Guinness that I can and wearing green because we all like celebrating something happy. We like to celebrate. I propose we work on creating the space where these celebrations and activations can happen. And as we all know, there are spillover effects to this work. Neighborhoods benefit, businesses benefit, and the community does also. I truly believe this work, being intentional about what we do, how we do it, and extending opportunities to unique partnerships is the work. And ultimately, this is how we create the muscle memory and operationalize opportunity for everyone. So if you look at my list, some of the things are not just, when I say a cultural activation, it's not just like a race-based activation, though that is part of it. It has to do with art and cultural heritage and music activations, historical and celebratory pop-ups, and performances and other activations. And this community is really known for that. You have Hoop Fest, you have Bloomsday, you have all of these things, and especially coming after COVID, these are going to be more important. But what I've also listed is that lively public spaces usually have spillover effects, instrumental in creating 18-hour neighborhoods that have an economic effect. A key part of economic revitalization in the Northwest is these cultural activations. Rents are usually higher in blocks with cultural uses. There's frequent cultural activations, have more businesses open till 10 p.m. and later. And then cities like Spokane that have an older, smaller building and smaller housing stock that have these historical buildings usually contribute to local economies and create distinctive and livable neighborhoods. There's an economic effect that the presence of business downtown has on the community. Next slide. So, what does a cultural activation look like? If you've been to Seattle, no, not Seattle, San Diego, you might have been to Little Italy. Little Italy is a cultural activation space. They have cultural associations with Italian culture. A lot of people go there for that. It's a part of their connected downtown. It creates a great experience that activated day and night. That's a cultural activation. Chinatown over in San Francisco is also. Next slide, please. Leavenworth, and thank you for changing that because I said Leavenworth wrong initially, and it was just going to create the optics that I didn't know what I was talking about. And at the end of it, you might think I might not know what I'm talking about, but I'm here for it. Leavenworth is a cultural activation, usually in the winter. Oktoberfest, no matter where you are, I'm not German. I'm drinking all the, you guys are gonna think I'm an alcoholic. Cultural activation, next slide, please. So these are some of the things that I worked on. So there was a cultural activation in Portland called My People's Market. This was an economic development activation, and the net result was development as a business incubator with several businesses gaining contracts with local stores, and a few created brick and mortar stores. What this ended up being is that it was usually maybe 100 vendors, and we would have a list, and we went to areas of the city, sometimes invited, whether it would be an old parking lot or a park or an underused space. And as a result, area businesses felt the spillover effect and gained new customers as a result of us activating specific spaces, sometimes culturally, and in this one, culturally associated with underrepresented groups for business opportunities. It was very intentional, and it created it had a great economic effect. Next slide, please. The next one was the Mercado, which was the business community utilizing parking lots again and underused spaces to spur and activate businesses that drew people to a unique and unreplicated opportunity. And one of the things that I see in the city of Spokane is that it is a regional hub, right? Only level true trauma center, east of Seattle. Lots of people coming here because of the amenities and the infrastructure and the businesses that are here. And I think that might be something that plays up. I'm all for economies of scale, but I'm also for capturing people's dollars and having them leave or stay. I'm for all of that. And I think that specifically speaks to the benefit of having an organized and centralized downtown. And what I've seen is that there are opportunities, especially around cultural activations, to create this space. And I'm almost done, and then we can open it up to conversation. Next slide, please. So I said, cool story, bro. Where do we go from here? So with all of that, what am I asking? I'm asking that we fundamentally rethink what community, what equity and justice look like, and specifically among business space, that we create opportunity-driven initiatives that rely on the exciting prospects of new energy and global market domination. And I know I speak a lot about globalization, but from the data that I was reading in regards to Spokane and the in-migration, the individuals that are moving here, and I deal with the homeless system here, so that reports to me. So I'm looking at what is creating homeless individuals within the city of Spokane. And the individuals who are moving here are beyond the income level of the average and don't qualify for any subsidized housing or anything. People who are moving here are upwardly mobile. And I think that's going to create an opportunity. And I'm going to ask also that we don't what's called virtue signal. Virtue signaling is where we say all the right things and we do nothing and everything remains the same. And then we convene another conversation and we continue to virtue signal, where it's like, you know what I like? I like when we have opportunities for seniors. And then we leave the meeting having done nothing but pontificate ad nauseum about what we think we should do with this world, whether what side we're on is like better and how great we are and what we're going to do, and then we do nothing. I propose we never do that, even though that's probably going to still be a part of the conversation because I work in government. And that we operationalize our actions through new partnerships, relationships, and new goals. And finally, that we ultimately talk about a just society and then take actions to ensure that it exists within our downtown. I think it could be so ominous when we talk about it because we create this all or nothing structure that pits people against each other instead of recognizing, like I said before, that I don't care if you like me or not, but what I do care about is that we are not using what we either like or dislike to eliminate opportunities, knowing that there are groups of individuals who will have more money and we would like a share of that. And we would like to create shared spaces that create economic opportunities for all of us. And the potential for that is downtown. So, you know, I also have this list that we reimagine community activation, equity, and justice look like for this community. And we demystify this work. We make it intersectional. We create and cultivate new relationships, and we work to activate the space. I also put down there on number 6, if you can't talk about equity, you talk about justice. You know, and I think that that's one way of reframing how we create new opportunities in new spaces, and that we create achievable goals one step up at a time. And that's what I'm talking about when we operationalize, that we put something down on paper and we execute it, because like I said before, sometimes you can't be what you can't see. And if you believe in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, some of us are near self-actualization, so we have the time. And sometimes we're going to have to think about these things for individuals who just do not have the time to think about them, but would love to be in that space also. Next slide. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm here for it. If you want to be friends or enemies, you can email me at calexander@spokanecity.org, or you can add me on LinkedIn, because I think that that's a thing. I think we all have it. I think most of us have it. Some of you probably have MySpace still. If not, LinkedIn is the thing. So with that, that's my brief presentation. I wanted to make sure I left some space for us to have conversation or feedback or questions or concerns. And then hopefully, if there's anyone who's watching this, you could be friends with me and ask questions that way. So that's my presentation.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Cupid. I'll go ahead and give some people a chance to chime in now if they do have any questions. I know I've got a few too. So if anyone would like to jump in with a question, please do so now. And
I have a question.
Yes.
One thing I've noticed in Spokane is we tend to have our circle of friends, and those are the people that we call upon to join a board that we like. I term off a board and I reach out to my circle of friends to maybe take over my position when I leave. I think part of our challenge is stepping outside of those circles and looking at some of the activation spaces that were created in Portland. How do we connect to, you know, maybe a property owner and a multicultural business association to come together to create that activation when they might not be in those circles already? How do you start that conversation?
You know, we had a lot of conversations about something. Well, Portland is similar. It's super parochial. And then we had conversations about what I call the FBI, families, brothers, in-laws, right? As ways into business. It was like this secret society that was watching you. We had to be very intentional on creating not only like succession plans, but non-traditional partnerships with, you have an amazing university infrastructure here. And I think that that's one of the first things that I would do is like, how do we create a very cool, intentional downtown space? I know that you have like an emerging leaders or young professionals, and making that a very seen part where people can get connected without already having been connected, right? Because it's like, if you're only tapping into your pipeline and your pipeline is what you came up with, and you know that there are people you grew up with who would be great that have never been there, we have to introduce new sorts of products and tools and opportunities, or sometimes just activate the space and make sure that we're being seen as somewhere that individuals can ask questions about, how do I become involved with this? Like, I want to be downtown drinking green beer with Elizabeth. How do I do that? You know? And I think the intentionality is just around those who recognize that, reaching out and creating it, because no one else is going to do it. I think we're always waiting for someone else to do that, and then the years just pass and we're in the same space, and then it just becomes a divided community, and the work becomes harder to like unpack the longer we let it just like entrench itself. I hope that kind of answered the question.
I've got a question. I'm Cupid. One, welcome to Spokane. And two, thank you for an incredibly refreshing presentation. Great, very informative, very bright and helpful. Thank you. And I'm sure because of the amount of time, it's also very big picture overview. And I'm wondering, what's the time frame for the city to actually, do they have a plan that's put together? I know that downtown DSP is working on updating its master plan. But what's the time frame for actually implementing some changes?
That's the difficult part for me, right? Because my technical job is neighborhoods, housing, and human services. So I've just kind of inserted my input coming from not only this, but in Portland, I also handle all of economic development and infrastructure development. That's not necessarily my role here. So I can't give a time frame. I know that they're trying to hire an economic development director who we would pull into these conversations around creating an intersectional plan with action items and action steps. I would, if it were me, I'd say within a year. Like within a year, we would do our, customer and consumer and community engagement, and we would convene them all, and we would come up with action items, and then we would, simultaneously try and identify resources and buy-in, and then we would create a calendar where we were going to deliver specific things. And knowing that we're coming out of COVID, knowing that summer is going to be here, knowing that because physical proximity is a thing, that activation of outdoor spaces might be the new it thing, and how we create business opportunities there, especially since downtown is one of the places that has the infrastructure. That would be where my focus is. And I'm not in that role anymore, but seeing as those opportunities exist, I would say I would have started this last year. Like in Portland, I started last year, and I left because I wanted an opportunity to be closer to the people. But I was working with like the PBA, Portland Business Association. We had a downtown partnership. We had created an enhanced service district along with like our business improvement district. So that was beyond the downtown core. And we had we were combating something that aren't necessarily. We were having massive amounts of protests and things being broken. So I was leading a charge around the cleanup, but we really focused on activating space. And once we did a winter activation, and it wasn't just like downtown. We brought it to different parts of downtown just so the businesses there felt the spillover effect. And once we started doing that and we made it COVID safe, people came out, rain, shine. They were like, we want something to do. We knew that open air was something that would go through the health district. And so that was something that we navigated. And then we made it time bound. So people were getting like little bracelets. So when they accessed the market, they could be there for 2 hours, and then we were cycling in people. And it created business opportunity. And some of the businesses decided to have pop-ups. So established businesses went back to having pop-ups also. And I mean, I don't know enough about the community. I'm like, oh man, y'all, if we're waiting for other people, no.
Well, I will absolutely be reaching out and connecting on LinkedIn. And I apologize, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Laura McAloon. I'm an attorney in town, and I actually have the privilege of doing bond counsel work for the city. But I'm also chair of the board of directors of YWCA. And so that intersectionality of the housing, the economic development, and social justice we're very focused on it and absolutely willing to be a partner with you. So it's really wonderful and refreshing to hear you talk.
Nice to meet you, and I think, as I've had these conversations, because we really got down into the weeds where I came from, like we could go really, really deep. And what I recognize that we all share specifically in the Northwest is that if it's a conversation about justice, I think that that's where we meet. That's the intersection between social justice, equity, upward mobility, clean neighborhoods, is like this meritocracy that's based off justice and hard work that are like Northwest values. And creating the space where that can exist and thrive is something that's safe for all of us, no matter where you are on the political landscape. Well, I hope. I am.
I agree, and it drives growth. So I'll give someone else an opportunity.
I just want to thank you. I enjoyed your talk. I'm Shannon down here. I don't want my picture to show up. My background's kind of ugly. So I just appreciate it. I'll probably contact you with email. And I have a lot of ideas. I own the Liberty Building downtown. And we do different things. The COVID has made it very difficult, but we're also anxious to do stuff and get activities. And listening to you gave me all kinds of ideas. So my thinking would be to maybe talk to you more a little bit and meet with some of the merchants and plan some summer outdoor activities. We have a large sidewalk area, and we keep talking about it, but it's hard to do sometimes. And then with the COVID, it's next to impossible, it seems like. So I guess I enjoyed your talk. I'll contact you with email, and I assume you're available once we meet if the group wants to do something to bring you in to help us with this.
Shannon, I think that so there is someone in the city who runs parks that's working on economic development, and I would have that individual come also. Like I said, I've like we were talking about activating space around Gonzaga basketball run and Hoop Fest because we know it's coming. And what that means for area businesses. And I'm trying to bring those ideas to this city. But I'm also cognizant of the role that I play now. And so I would be sure to make an intentional connection and be a part of whatever working group so I can bring my experience. And I think that conversation about what summer activations look like, whether it's phase 1, 2, or 3, what we can plan around just so the community is prepared for it. I think the sooner that you put that information out, the more likely people are to put that on their calendar as like a not missed opportunity. Like, hey, I heard they're going to have this, and I'm frankly tired of being at home. It's going to be outside, and I can take my kids. Yeah. So we're going to go on
we would probably work with the parking lot that surrounds our building. They're willing to work with us on events too. So anyway, I appreciate your talk, and thank you. And I'll email you.
Sounds good.
All right, well, we are just about at time, so I think we'll go ahead and kind of wrap things up here, but Cupid has left his information there, and thank you for everyone who did participate today and anyone watching the recorded version. Laura, thank you for your question, and we actually recently were talking kind of internally here about using one of these 30-minute sessions maybe in the coming months to do a little like downtown update on the downtown plan. So keep an eye out for that. And so with that, I'll just tell everyone to have a great day. Thank you. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us or look online for more information about downtown at downtownsspokane.org. Cupid, thank you once again. And everyone just have a great rest of the day.